That's bungling still though. All right, so look, while you're doing your thing with your cereal, enjoying yourself, yo, look at this. No, slurp away. You slurp away. Let me do the intros. Let me do the intros, and you go ahead your cereal. So look, in any case, Dr. E's open seminars. It's another one. We're open seminar number 48 today. Dr. E's open seminar number 48. Thank you guys for coming along. You know what it is by now. Same time, same place. Same 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST every single Monday night. That's
except today is 3 in New York.
Today is 3 in New York. Yeah, little kind of like clock differences.
We went forward and you guys stayed the same.
And to be honest with you, 7 p.m. GMT takes priority. Sorry. So that's just what it is. But in any case, usually 7 p.m. GMT, usually 2 p.m. EST when the time zone difference is the 5 hours that it usually is. Every single Monday, bringing that education for a new generation. The type of expertise you usually have to pay through the nose for in those dry-ass lecture theaters with those crusty old white men, but we bring you that stuff that they usually don't talk about in those lecture theaters, you know what I'm saying? But we're real PhDs and whatnot. And I'm your boy, Dr. E, director and lead tutor at TBT, philosopher extraordinaire, all those wonderful things there, you know what I'm saying? And then that's your girl, Tanzine, great dictator, PhD to be. Vote for her in the dictator elections, obviously. And
of course, well, make it equal.
That Robin Hood type ish. And I mean, it makes sense. And in the meantime, y'all shout out. We will need a quick shout out for Karine out there doing her she's preparing herself for some like major examinations and things. So shout out, good luck with all of that.
Yay, good luck, Karine. We love you.
And Missy doing all of our edits. So as I said,
thank you, Missy. Sorry for the swears.
As I said in pre-production, so look, we do the live show every single Monday at 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST. And we go live on YouTube because we're really about our building together. We're really about you joining in the conversation. This is a real seminar. It's really for engagement, really for education, really for discussion. That's what we're really here for. But the edited version of the show comes up at the end of the week on a Saturday. And then you can get to see kind of like all the edited versions with all the clips and the jokes and the funnies and and all the ish that Missy does that, like, I don't know, makes a lot of sense all the time because she's mad corny. But like, what are you going to do? The point is, that's the show. Oh, and while we're here, y'all I always forget this part, but do sign ups. You know what I'm saying? So we're on SoundCloud, we're on Spotify, we're on Mixcloud, we're on iTunes now. So check out TBT Sounds on iTunes, TBT Sounds on Instagram, as well as the Build on Shoes on Instagram. Yo, we everywhere, Facebook, the whole website, all of that is all there. Having said all of that, today's seminar, fam. Today's seminar, slightly different thing. So last week, what did we talk about last week? I feel like we started talking about Fanon. Mm-hmm. No? Wasn't that what we were talking about last week?
We did the intro on Friday to Fanon, to Black Skin White.
There you go. That's what we did. So last week, Friday, we had a look at the introduction. Yeah, it was on Friday, exactly. We had the introduction of Black Skin White Mass. We talked about that just to introduce Frantz Fanon as part and parcel of like an ongoing series. Once a month, we're going to go back to that particular book and go through another one of the chapters, right? And then just try and make our way through Frantz Fanon's thinking over the course of time. But today, slightly different. So today is about us. You know what I'm saying? Today's about why we're here. Today's about what the whole point of all of this is. Today's about who we be. You know what I'm saying? Why listen to me? Besides the fact that I got a book, Real Authority, TBT. But in any case, all of that lovely stuff. And what I wanted to kind of get to today more than anything else is the fact that, look, we talk a lot about, like, you know, subjects that we feel like should be discussed at universities, topics that we think are important, writers that we feel like people should know about, But we haven't actually taken any time to go through our personal experiences of academia, our personal experiences of study, our personal experiences kind of coming up to the point that we are now, how we got there, what that was like, and the trials and tribulations in so doing, right? And I thought, look, the truth is, I thought we could just talk about that, but like it gets dry after 5 minutes. Like, I don't really want to, I'll be honest with you, I don't care. I don't very much care. But what I do think is important, and I feel like it's part and parcel of what we're doing with these seminars and part of Build On Together, but what I do think is important is the political aspect of our time in academia. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like those two things are tied up, and people tend to kind of like get political and start kind of lining up what their politics are and start engaging in one group or another around about the time they get into kind of like, you know, academics, university, whatever else, that kind of college, all that ish, around that period of time in their life, right? So I wanted to kind of like just kick off today with something real simple, right? With you. How are you doing?
Good.
How are things?
Good.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
The chicken went to the store to go get some eggs because the farmer, if he didn't get the eggs each and every time the farmer came, the farmer would eat him.
So you're good.
Yeah.
You're happy. All is well where you are right now. That's great.
I'm home, so I'm great.
No, what I wanted to know was about your journey, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go through like the whole of our kind of like academic journeys. You know, some of us have had a long, illustrious career in academia. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying. No, I'm joking. Do have a book though, but I'm joking. What I'm saying is, nah, I don't want to go through the whole thing and bore the living daylights out of everybody. I just want to wrap our heads around some of the kind of like the key moments of what it took for us to get to the point that we got to, what the trials and tribulations were, what the natural obstacles were, what the key teachable moments were.
When you say get to the point that we got to or whatever, you mean like getting a PhD, or you mean politically?
Both.
What?
I don't think they're different. This is my point. It's like I don't think these are entirely separate things, and I feel like for most people they're not completely separate things. I feel like for a lot of people, the experience of college and high school, the experience of college and higher education, all that kind of stuff is where all of their politics tend to get kind of formalized, and you start developing associations and groups and friendship circles or whatever else is that kind of reinforce all of that. And then the experiences that you go through either with those groups or as you age tend to also kind of reflexively inform your politics too. So I could just ask you about them separately, but I don't think they're separate things, particularly in your case.
I mean, I think that's true. I will just say, I don't think that this is the majority of people. I don't think most people who go to school, who go to university, are necessarily politicized in their universities.
No.
I think a lot of people go to university. I think the majority of people go to university because they need a degree so they can get a good job and they get out. I think that there are some people who get into political stuff.
Sure.
When they're in academia. I wasn't that person though. The thing is, like, I was political before. I was into politics before, and like the stuff partly because I had a crazy father who would rant about the West and America when I was growing up. So I already had some of that. And I knew about Cuba, and I really respected Cuba and Che and all these people. So like, this is all high school. And I had a lot of respect for Gaddafi. I read about, I used to skip class in high school. And I would try to get my friends to skip class, but they would never do it because they were like, no, let's go. So then I would be the only one skipping class. So I would go to the library because it's not fun to skip class and leave school by yourself.
Facts.
So I would just end up skipping class because I hated school. And I learned nothing in those classes, I felt like, or in a lot of those classes. And I would go to the library and I would read about all these different things in the world. So I read about Libya, I read about Gaddafi, I learned about the history of Libya, I learned about Haiti. I was really interested in Haiti for a long time, in the politics of Haiti, and US intervention in Haiti. I wanted to actually, in high school, I wanted to move to Haiti at one point. And then I learned about Jamaica. I was really interested in the political history of Jamaica. Where else? Cuba. And different political figures through history and stuff. Che Guevara. I was huge on Che Guevara. Like when I was in high school and college, anyone who knew me, who was close to me, knew if you wanted to get me a gift, you have to get me something that had to do with Che, either a book about him or by him or something.
But I know this phase. This is a thing.
I think a lot of as people get politicized, a lot of young people have this phase.
You got to do the Che phase, man. That's a thing.
So then when I went to college, I was really excited because my image of college was like this space where you could be political and do something with your politics. But I went to a school that me personally, I felt like was not really political. I went to a school that I didn't want to go to, but I didn't have a choice, so I didn't get in anywhere else. I wasn't a good student in high school. Not because I wasn't smart, but just because I hated my high school and hated everything about school. So I couldn't wait to get out and just go to college. I wanted to go to college. And when I got to college, I was kind of disappointed because I didn't feel like I saw politics really big on my campus. My school was more like a party school.
Right.
I didn't see a lot of political stuff happening. And I've always kind of been a loner. So I didn't really get involved with a lot of stuff on campus. I had literally one friend. I have one friend from college, one, who I love dearly, but I never made friends with anyone else because that's just not my thing. And so yeah, I kind of didn't really get what I wanted to get out of college. So I was kind of like, just like, I just want to get out of here.
Right.
So then I graduated. I ended up going to grad school. And in grad school, it's interesting because I don't know how it is in the UK, but what I noticed here is that in academia, the politics, it's a lot of stuff where it's like, I don't really know how to describe it. There's very little class analysis. Any analysis that exists is around race, but it's
Right.
very, in my opinion, my experience rather, it was very surface, like, I don't want to use, I guess it would be what people really call like identity politics. But
Right.
it's like I don't like that term because it kind of diminishes the struggle of race, which I don't think should be diminished. But I
Yeah.
think like if you're gonna address race, you have to address it in a way that my experience in grad school, it didn't go deep enough.
Okay.
I feel like because
Okay.
a lot of it was just like it was about feelings.
Yeah.
It was about feelings,
Yeah.
and my friend is just like,
Yeah.
And to be fair, at that time I did have those politics,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
was
I'm with
pretty
you.
much into that, you know. Like we don't feel like you guys accept, like we're not part of the school university. We don't feel like the university supports students of color. Blah blah blah. I feel. But I think this is also like a generational thing. Like I said this before, but I feel like millennials in particular are very me. And so everything goes back to like how you feel, your feelings about things, and you want your feelings to be acknowledged at every moment. And I'm kind of past that point because I think politics goes beyond your personal experience and feelings.
I mean, it's supposed to.
Yeah, because
Right,
it's
but
supposed to be about the larger society, right?
Right, but we had that seminar on the issue of identity politics and the
Mhm.
contradiction in terms
Yeah.
of what that actually means, right? Because the idea
Yeah.
of having a whole politics surrounding your personal identity is just naturally in tension.
Right. So that was the whole thing in grad school. Then, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I'm just gonna get through this. Grad school. When I was in grad school, in my second year, I think, or was it my first year? I don't remember. But at some point, I met like all these leftists, and I put it in quotes because these are the people
This
that
is
run
what I was
around.
talking about. Exactly. Right.
These are the people who run around calling themselves leftists, and they have the correct politics, and they've read all the books, and they know everything,
Right.
and they will decide who is a leftist and who isn't a leftist, and they are the center of the universe. And I fell in with these people.
Yeah. You mean you joined the cult?
I did. I feel like I did.
That awesome moment where you have to work a job that you hate so you can pay bills.
I mean,
that's effectively what you just described, but you joined the cult.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I first met, like I really wanted to do, I guess what you would call activism. Like I wanted to do something with my politics. And that was the case for me since I was like 19 years old. I remember at 19, I read the autobiography of Asada Shakur. And I read it specifically because I was like, I need to know how to do something. Like, I need to do something with this. And I didn't know, and I didn't get anything. The book is great, but for the purposes of my, like what I was trying to figure out, like what to do and how to do something, it didn't help me with that. But that wasn't she was telling me about her life story. She wasn't telling, it wasn't like a guidebook of like what you do with your politics.
Yeah.
And so I felt really lost, And so when I met these people, I thought they were very strange. They were very socially awkward. They were weird. It was a lot of like weird white people, or like it wasn't even all white people. It was like there was even some weird people of color, but they were all like the crunchies, like people who don't bathe regularly.
Crunchies, health warning. Listen, you need to know this. I don't know that we have crunchies in the UK, so you might need to define a crunchy. That's one. That's one. And two, I don't know that we use that term. I'm relatively sure we got those people.
That term, me and Errol came up with that term.
Okay, so we need to kind of.
There's the crunchies and the smellies.
Oh my God. All right, so this is one. And two, health warning. Like, just, I might want to give you a heads up for you air somebody out on here by accident. Like, just don't drop no names out here.
No, I mean, I probably wouldn't do that, but if I did, I won't. I'm fine with it. But No, but like I met these people, and it was mostly white people, but there were some people of color in these circles, and they
Right.
were all collectively very strange. They were the people who like, we're vegan and we, oh my god, I don't eat meat.
Shout out our vegans out there. Yo, love you vegans.
I don't have a problem with people being vegan, but I have a problem with people making it a political position. Calm down.
I'm with you. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, but they will tell you all kinds of crazy things. Well, I just believe, and someone actually said this to me, I just believe if we're gonna live in a world that's really about equity, and not having oppression, it has to go beyond humans. Okay, just stop talking to me right now, please. I am against animal cruelty. I do not believe in that. I don't think you should torture animals, but I don't think that means I can't eat some lamb. So anyway, I need my lamb. But they were just very weird, strange people, and I did feel like they were very weird and strange when I first met them, and I used to actually make fun of them. To their faces, because a lot of these people don't bathe. Like it's
before
like,
you joined them.
But I didn't become. I always bathed. I always bathed. I will just say that.
I always bathe. Can we say I didn't get a definition on a crunchy? What's a crunchy?
Okay, a crunchy is like a hippie-ish kind of person.
Okay.
And they bathe more often than a smelly.
Okay.
They like granola a lot. It's like their go-to food. They're probably some sort of vegetarian or vegan.
Okay. Like the veganism is a prerequisite of the crunchiness.
Generally, they're vegetarian because I feel like the smellies are more of the vegans. Like they're the extremists.
Okay.
In everything.
Okay.
And then there's the smellies who are like, they're gonna go protest the World Trade Organization and sleep in a tent and travel the country without bathing, and they won't bathe for months if they ever do. And you know a smelly because you will smell a smelly the minute you could be sitting here and they could like walk in the door that's all the way over there and you will smell them.
You smell it smelly because they smelly.
And the difference
is what we're trying to say.
So this is how I define it. So I used to work when I was in college. I used to work in a homeless shelter.
Right.
And some of the clients, it's a homeless shelter. When clients come in, they live on the street and they haven't bathed in a while, and people smell.
Sure.
These smellies, the first time I met them, literally one of the first thoughts in my head was, oh my God, they smell like my clients. But they have no reason for that. You're not homeless. You just choose this. So anyway, but somehow I think they make it a part of the politics. I don't know. So
who's making not bathing a part of your politics?
No, a lot of them do.
What do you mean not bathing as a political statement?
When I used to make fun of them, they used to get really offended, some of them. And it was like, I don't know, it was like some weird thing with their politics. Like it's basically a rejection of everything mainstream. Because everything
hygiene?
I don't know. I can't speak for them. All I know is that they smell really bad. So somehow I fell in with these people. And it's not somehow. It's because they had read more than me, and they clearly thought that they were smarter than me because they had read more than me. And they made me feel...
I think this is important. Important.
Because this is something that happens in academia too.
This is my point. I wanted to kind of get to this point, and I wanted to get to this precisely this part, because I think this is important, because this is the illusion of academia. It's the whole thing. So if you're a student, regardless of the level of student you're at, and I mean that in terms of whether or not you think of yourself as an intelligent or successful student, or whether or not you're at your PhD, master's, BA, you're at college, whatever level of student you are, there's the illusion of the kind of like the intelligence of the academic, right? And like they know more than you, they're authority figures. They kind of take on the garb, they take on the role of being authority figures precisely because of the fact that they've read more than you have. But so this was your experience of bumping into a bunch of leftists.
So when I met some of these people, the people that I got to know, they would always like I hadn't read theory. I never read Marx. I never read any of that crap because honestly, I don't like theory. It's boring to me. It's very, very boring. When I sit down to read it, I fall asleep. And their thing was, you have to read, you have to read, you have to read. And
you've got to wonder why you married a philosopher. But yeah, I'm with you.
No, but the thing is, like, they make you feel like unless you've read everything they've read or do what they say, you can't reach that level, whatever level they make you feel like you're supposed to read. It's so weird. And the thing is, I didn't trust myself, and I really believed that they were smarter than me.
Yeah.
Because they read, even though I knew they were socially inept, and they are. They are. The
By and
majority
large.
of them are like these are some. They can't have a conversation with anyone.
But hey, how do you know that social ineptitude is not a political statement? I mean, maybe they deliberately socially inept, so that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the left has a way of attracting all the rejects of society in many like these circles, like these like leftist circles. It's really just a social scene where everyone who is like doesn't fit into the rest of society kind of goes to these spaces. And I
Okay,
think the
but
far right is the same. I will say.
I might argue the same thing. I'm not that I'm kind of familiar
I
with
think they
it, but
mirror each other in that, where it's like all the people who don't fit in, who are weirdos, who got picked on in high school, which a lot of people got picked on in high school, but there's a difference between like regular getting picked on and then like you're a weirdo.
no, I think you're right. I think they mirror each other in more than just
Mm.
that, and I think they mirror each other in ways that make each other uncomfortable. Shout out my man Michel
Yeah.
Foucault. But for all of those who haven't seen it, there'll be mad references throughout this whole seminar. But because I'm freestyling, but like there's a debate between Michel Foucault and Noam Chomsky.
Mm.
And it's available on YouTube for those like super geeks out there, right? So for my super nerds, my super geeks, for those who don't know already, go find out. Michel Foucault is like a banging philosopher. Noam Chomsky is like as a philosopher. I love him, but like he's The point is, they have this debate that's conducted in 3 languages, which is English, French, and Dutch, which is amazing. But in any case, they have this debate conducted in 3 languages, and basically Foucault's whole point is that what you think of as the left and what you think of as the right are already part and parcel of the same overarching system. Like the narrative behind what is what is left and what is right is acceptable to the broad system. Like its parameters will allow for this kind of fascism and this kind of leftism. You're not really revolting against the system until you kind of start breaking away from that. And doing that means you have to begin by seeing how they're similar, like seeing where their overlaps are. And there's a tendency to want to not do that, like, you know, obviously in either one of those camps at university, whatever else, right? So if you're leftist,
Because the thing is, it's like if you point out the similarities in the way that they function, which is really where the similarities are, it's in the way that they function, not in their beliefs.
No.
They're functioning. All of a sudden, people get really, really hyper insensitive because, first of all, because being a leftist is like part of your identity now, which I think is a dangerous thing. It's just an identity category for a lot of people. I think that's dangerous because it's not about your identity; it's about what you do.
Yeah.
But I when I was, you know, in these groups, I definitely took that on, and for me, it became this identity, and in this really weird way. And then I realized somewhere along the way, early on, or at some point, I realized that when I would get a piece of information, I would, you know, when you hear something and then you evaluate it using like your critical thinking skills.
Thinking.
Thinking.
I'm vaguely
I
familiar
wasn't
with it.
evaluating information based on my own critical thinking. I was evaluating what I was getting based on what is the most leftist way to look at this.
Yes, I know what you mean.
When I realized, I remember thinking that, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why did I think about it like that? And I was like, why am I thinking about things like this? And this happened for a while, and I kept checking, like I kept realizing that this was happening, and I knew something was weird here. And then I just remember being in, they used to have these annoying meetings. I forgot if they were weekly or bi-weekly or whatever they were, but they were on Sundays, and it would be like 4 people in a cafe, literally 4 losers in a cafe sitting there saying things like, well, what can we do to influence politics in the city or whatever? And it's just like, you're 4 morons. And I remember sitting in these meetings, and the thing is, I didn't like to go to them. And I feel like the other 3 people or 4 people in the group were disappointed in me because I was just like, I don't want to go. And but I would go because they made me feel guilty. So I would go and I would just sit there and I would be like, when I would leave these meetings, I would just be like, what did we just do? I just wasted like 3 hours of my life or however long it was, 2 hours or whatever. And I was like, I just wasted this time. Like, what just happened right now?
But this was you engaging with leftist politics at university.
Well, it was when I was in grad school, but this part was after grad school. When I was like working in the world, like
Yeah, but this is your
And-
encounter with like engagement with politics, because
Mhm.
what you're saying is before that point you're politically minded, but you're just politically minded. Like this is you actually engaging with what you think politics is. But this is
Right.
my point. I know you said you didn't because you like to cast yourself as different, but I'm saying this is my point. I feel like this is a lot of people. They get to this level of academia, and then they start, because they're engaging with other people of a similar frame of mind. They start adopting a certain set of kind of political ideas and what have you, and they start thinking a particular way. See what I'm saying? And it's the same, like it plays on the same tropes, ideological tropes as the university itself, right? So the university itself, the people who get really, really successful at the university itself are the ones who swallow or who buy into the ideological parameters of academia. They don't tell you this. Like that's not what they say to you. Hey, when you come to university, you got to believe in all the ideological parameters of academia. What they say to you is you got to finish this essay and you got to do this examination. You got to do blah, blah, blah. But in order to do this, your kind of your success at doing that is dependent on the degree to which you kind of swallow that ideology.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. There's overlap in academia, and it's a lot of these people who are in these leftist groups are actually also in academia.
That's my point.
There's overlap here, and they mirror each other in that way as well.
That's my point.
And I think also it's about both sides are about, for lack of a better term, branding yourself, right?
Yes.
It's about broadcasting to everyone whatever you think your brand is, right?
Yeah.
And so in academia, if you want to be successful in academia, you have to do this. You have to have a brand. You have to push this brand. Like I have seen all kinds. I don't know the
That's more the US than I think the UK, but I think you're right.
Yeah, because it's a business, right? And so there's a professor in the US who I've seen, her thing is like the hood professor. And I'm like, oh my God, you sound...
There's a few of these though. There's a few of these hood professors.
But you sound so corny.
You want to tell me what this is all about?
Yeah.
Who goes around calling themselves, just be you?
Oh, wait, she refers to herself that way?
Yes. It's like her Twitter handle or something, and I'm just like, okay. But you see how if something is a fact, it just is. Because
yes,
it is.
I don't need to say it.
You don't have to broadcast it. But this is the
you mean
thing.
like I don't refer to myself as the gravity walker, because that's how you do that.
Right. But what was I gonna say? But I feel like the left is similar, right? Where it's like you have to, in certain segments of the left, it's like it's all about being the most radical.
Yeah.
So that you can broadcast to everyone how radical you are, so everyone will know that you're the most leftist. Right. And really, what all of this is, whether you're talking about the left or you're talking about academia, it's just you're just jerking off your own ego.
That's literally what it is. And don't think this is... Hold up. And this isn't even you being like crude or crass or goodness or whatever else. Ludwig Wittgenstein. You know Wittgenstein? Let me tell you Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein, exactly. Yeah, don't worry about it. Wittgenstein is a philosopher, right? Or they call him a philosopher. I don't agree, but that's something else. The point is, Wittgenstein is a philosopher, right? And at some stage... So he writes his thesis, his Logico Tractatus, right? That's his thesis, his famous like piece of work and whatever. I don't like it, but whatever. The point is, he writes it, and in order to write it, he goes away to some log cabin in like Switzerland or something like that. Stays there for mad years, writes his work, and then sends it in and has his defense, and that's it. He gets his PhD. When they asked him why he doesn't attend the campus more often, he says that, well, because university is the place for the prostitution of the mind.
Yeah.
I'm not there to pimp my mind out. That's not what I'm there for. That's what you guys are there for. You're just out here pimping your minds out to each other, trying to show each other off on who's better at this and who's better at that. And that's all it is. It's just mental masturbation. That's all I'm not interested. It's exactly what you're saying. We're not even being crude. This is you and Ludwig Wittgenstein feel this way. No, I totally agree with you. But okay, look. So let me say this. Because I feel like I had a similar experience. Not the same, obviously, but a similar experience. But what I want to talk about is the point at which that facade fell, like the point at which that like veil fell, and you realize the bullshit. So we've had seminars in the past about the bullshit of academia, the bullshit behind the system, the bullshit behind the way they teach you, why they teach you the way they teach you, why the classes are set up the way they're set up, like the reason why in classes there's a teacher at the front and there's rows of chairs behind them and all that. Why the corridors are so narrow in high school. There's a logic behind all of this, and y'all will find that out. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, but we did this on our seminar on the bullshit of academia. Y'all can find it out. Go back, check the YouTube channel, but it's in there. The point is, at some stage, the veil of the bullshit falls for not everybody, but for some people, at some stage, you get to that point where you're like, oh wow, university ain't what you think it is. Not just the university, but the academics aren't what you think they are. The leftists, in your experience, aren't what they profess to be. There's a point at which that kind of thing collapses. Now, for me, I don't know, man. It might have been like relatively early on because I was a dick at school. But the key moment would have been like, all right, so PhD, my supervisor. And I feel like other people will be able to empathize with this. I don't think I'm the only one out here who went through this, right? But I'm doing my PhD, and the whole thing ended up taking 8 years, right? In the course of this, for about 3 or 4 years, me and my mans over here are caught in a debate about a particular part of what would be my thesis. And it's an interpretation of one particular passage from, what was his name? Jean-Paul Sartre? That we had last week. Jean-Paul Sartre, right? Yeah, cool. Sartre. There you go, Sartre. Yes, I can't do the hard R. Sartre. But in any case, it starts to sound Indian. It sounds Sartre. But in any case, Sartre. Where is this Sartre? But in any case, all right, I'm going to offend somebody at some point, somewhere along the line. Filet. I can't help it. But the point is, so we're doing this, we're arguing about this one interpretation of this one passage, right? And I'm absolutely sure with every fiber of my being that I'm right in my interpretation. But he's convinced that I'm just being arrogant, or like I'm not taking his opinion seriously, or I'm not thinking enough about his criticisms, or God knows whatever else. And here's me trying to be a good student, trying desperately to be a good student. And for like 2.5 years, I turned my thoughts over a million different ways to try to find a way to make him right. Because he must know more than me. It's what you were talking about beforehand. He's the authority figure. He must know more than I do. He must have that academic experience. He must know. He must. And I'm so sure of this because my whole academic experience rests on the authority of that person. Come to find, 2.5 years later, I can't find a way to make him right. I'm still convinced I'm the right one here in this debate. And eventually he gets so frustrated. Yo, I swear to God, he gets so frustrated. He stood up, grabbed the book off his shelf, that we're talking about, that we spent 2 years talking about, pulled it off his shelf, and then did one of these. He blew the dust off it.
Oh, okay.
And then went and found the page, and after 10 minutes of reading went, I think you might be right. 2.5 years we've been arguing about this. The guy had never cracked the book open once.
Because he was so sure that he was right.
Not even just the sure that he was right. You see the laziness of it, the assumptions, the kind of well, I must be right. I'm your teacher. How would you know? And you're saying something that I just fundamentally don't agree with. So how could you be right? The point is that for me, that was one of those key moments. That was one of those moments where it was like, oh wow, y'all don't know a fucking thing. See, I bleeped myself. Yo, Missy. I bleep myself. What's up? But the point is, no, for real, they don't know a thing. Like they claim they do. They claim they understand something, and their criticisms of you, their advice to you, their judgments of you, their assessments of your abilities, and so on and so forth, are based. The value of those criticisms are based on the assumption of their authority. And I couldn't believe how vacuous that authority was. They don't know anything. For me, that was like that. I don't know, man. That moment changed my whole attitude towards academia. Like I got mad cocky after that. I got super arrogant after that. Shout out Drake.
I might be too strung out on compliments, overdosed on confidence.
You know how helpful Drake was to me during that period of time in academia? No.
Hey, why Drake?
Because I might be too high on overdosed on compliments, too high on confidence. Starting not to give it. And stop fearing the consequence? Drinking every night because we drink to my accomplishments? I mean, come on!
That's just something they know. They know.
The bars were just like, it was just the ego of it. It was the sheer arrogance of Drake.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that is the answer to to academia is to just get arrogant yourself. I think
Nah.
the problem with academia, one of the problems with academia and with the left as well, and with these leftist groups at least, is that everyone thinks they know everything.
I agree.
I feel like people need to realize no one really knows anything, because if you all knew everything, the world would not be what it is.
Okay, so hold up. No, because you said it now. So now I'm gonna ask you a question.
Mm,
Because now you're bringing us to the thing that I feel like I'm really concerned with.
mm,
And what I really want to get to is, okay, so because we've had a seminar on this in the past, if it is the case that there's some bullshit in academia, there's some BS there that makes it not as plausible as it kind of professes to be and whatever else.
mm,
What I want to know is where the bullshit in the left is. Because that part of the academic experience
mm,
still exists.
mm,
Still persists. Still carries some weight.
mm,
To the point that it caught you up in it.
mm,
I'm sure it's caught mad other people up in it.
mm.
I'm sure there's loads of people out here going, nah, man, this is the movement. And sitting in cafeterias, four people sitting around a coffee table talking about how we're going to change New York politics.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I'm sure they're still doing that.
Batman, Robin, and a couple of his crew just sitting there
Yeah,
going, man,
basically.
what do we do at night? Crime fighters, man. Communist crime fighters, yeah.
Mind you, it's people who can't even have a conversation
With the
with the
members of
person
the general
serving their
public.
coffee.
But this is what I'm saying to you. So, all right, so you tell me,
Mm.
what was the point at which, I mean, this is what it was for me, but with academia, what was the point at which for you it became obvious that the left wasn't what the left was? Like, when did
think
the
it
failures
was-
in the left become clear to you?
I think it
And
was
don't,
for a
and don't
long
say
time.
Francesco, because we went over that.
Who?
Francesco from Italy and Bologna.
Oh, no. So the thing is, for me, it had been for a while. I had been seeing it for a while,
Mm.
but I'm the kind of person that I'll see something and I'll be like, meh, maybe not, and I'll just keep going.
Welcome to
Because
my
this
world,
is
people.
my stupidity. This is my stupidity. Because no, the thing is, I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt all the time, like a moron. And I don't trust myself. So if I think something, it must be wrong. So I think I had been seeing it for a while. It had really been years, to be honest with you. And I just didn't understand the point of some of these groups. And I remember going to the last conference that I went to. It was like 20 people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So like less than a classroom.
Basically.
But
But the
it was
last
a
conference I
conference.
went to, I said in the middle of the thing, I was like, I don't really understand the point of this group. What is this group supposed to be doing?
You said that out loud.
Yeah, and I feel
Blasphemy.
like, but the thing is, I feel like everyone in there was just like, oh, poor thing, she's dumb. Instead of being like, oh, let's take a look at ourselves. Because they're not able to look at themselves.
Yeah, of course not.
Because everything they're doing is correct because
Right.
they've read Marx. So,
They're
you
following
know,
the ideological practice.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. But,
How could they be wrong?
but I think it was like a long time coming. But I think the thing that broke it for me was seeing their hypocrisy.
Tell me.
Seeing their hypocrisy. So there was a personal situation in the group that happened. And it was these two members. It was like relationship drama, because this was the other thing about the left. Everybody's sleeping with everybody and everybody marries everybody. And well, they don't get married, but most of them don't get married because, you know, you can't do that. You're a leftist. But everybody's dating each other, and it just is one big cluster F
Fudge.
word. There you go.
Mad fudge. Fudge all
fudge.
over the place.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so these people's
Like a chocolate
relationship
factory
broke
in this
down, and I just watched this woman manipulate the whole group into ostracizing the other person and acting like she was the only victim. The thing is, when a relationship breaks up, it is 99.9% of the time, it's never, ever, ever the fault of one person.
Nah, if we
marriages
break up,
break
it's your
up
fault. It's definitely your fault.
Because, anyway, marriages break up because you both couldn't make it work. Because relationships are hard, interpersonal stuff is hard, and we're
Yes.
human beings.
You are very hard.
But
Yes.
the thing is, I watched her manipulate this entire group into, you know, blaming the other person and
Mm.
they have these ridiculous accountability, like, let's do an accountability process. An accountability process is basically just, you have to come to this meeting and you have to agree that you were wrong about everything, or else you're abusive.
Yeah, I don't
And
know that we need to explain this to people. This
honestly,
is craziness.
It's some insanity. And as I saw this, and then they did, oh my God, they wanted to understand what abuse was. So I know what abuse is when I see it. I might not be able to give you a definition of it, but when I see it, I can tell you what it is. I can identify it.
Sure.
They wanted to do a study on abuse, and what they studied, a study, which I was not a part of because I just thought it was ridiculous.
Okay.
And so they wanted to do a study, and what they studied was a self-help book and some other crap. And based on this, they decided that this other person had been abusive, and they also decided that a woman could never abuse a man. And that to me makes no sense, because we are not talking about a structural, when you're talking about an interpersonal relationship, either party in that relationship, regardless of gender, in my opinion, can be abusive towards the other, because again, we are human beings. We're not talking about structures right now.
Listen, I don't want to make this about
the
me.
Individual level.
I don't want to make this about me and pretend like I created.
You have been the victim of abuse at the hands of.
And pretend like I created this entire seminar and set up a whole studio and goodness over else just so that I can kind of like make a plea for help, like I'm Britney Spears out here.
Hi guys, just checking in with all of you who are concerned about me. All is well. My family has been going through a lot of stress and anxiety lately, so I just needed time to deal. But don't worry, I'll be back.
Like, but if anybody, like, you know, if you guys might want to jump in the chat and be like, you know, tell me to wear a yellow jumper next time, and that, you know, I blink a lot. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
if you need help, blink 3 times. No. But for me, it was just that. And then when I questioned them on it, they talked about Israel and Palestine.
What?
A woman cannot abuse a man
because Israel and Palestine.
They were trying to explain like the structure.
Well, shout out my Palestinians.
Men in society have more power than women, so therefore a woman can never be abusive towards a man.
Okay,
but we're talking about interpersonal stuff, and they cannot wrap their minds around the individual level. I feel like.
And when this for you is the moment.
So this to me, this is when I left. I was just like, I'm out of here. Like, these people are crazy. They're crazier than crazy. And the thing is, for me, it's like I'm watching their hypocrisy. I'm watching you manipulate these people into doing what you want. And I'm watching everyone go along with it.
Yes.
And because I said something, so basically, I questioned this person in front of the whole group. So I sent an email and I was like, this is ridiculous. And I said all these things. And all of a sudden everybody swooped in to protect her because, you know, I was doing, my email was like causing her to relive her abuse, which is, shut up. The fact that you said that tells me you've never experienced real abuse in your life. But anyway, so then they all swooped in and they were like, you're attacking her. Oh my God, you have to leave. You can't be in meetings anymore, which thank God. What did you think that was like? I didn't want to go to your stupid meetings for a very long time. I was like, thank God. But then they were like, we'll invite you. They sent me some email and they were like, do you want to come back to the group? If you come back to the group, you have to apologize. And I was like, no, I'm good. I will never apologize, and I'm gonna leave the group.
Because ideologically, you have to kind of fit. Yeah, that's
you have to fit. Right.
All right. So, but here's my thing. I thought there's a moment that was there for the both of us, and I know it wasn't a big deal for you, right? And it really wasn't that big of a deal for me either. But it's only because like that day, I don't know, man. I felt like there was a little win in that day, man. I got a little win. It was a cool, and I take that win for myself. You know exactly what day I was talking about.
Are you talking about in Italy?
No, I'm not talking about Francesco. Francesco, we're leaving alone.
Okay.
Francesco, y'all can check out our previous seminar where we talk all about Francesco and Bologna and all of the problems that happened with Francesco. But that was something else. No, I'm talking about Brighton Beach, and I'm talking about. And this is my point. So here's my point. I feel like, and I have always felt like, I don't want to go into all of the details here. We'll talk about some of it, but I've always felt like there is a hypocrisy, there is a sleight of hand at the heart of not just academia, not just the leftists that you might find in academia, but leftist politics as such. Right? Now, let me be absolutely clear here. I'm not trying to rag on leftist politics. There's a red coat behind me. I know. I see the puns. Shut up. That's not what I'm trying to do. I, at some stage, consider myself to be a leftist. Like, that's how in fact, I think that's how we introduced ourselves to each other. More extreme versions of the left.
Yeah.
I was just so left. I came all the way. You know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, yeah, I'm out of here, fam. You don't know, man. It's next level left. But no, the point is, no. So my thing is that I thought of myself that way too at some stage, but it seemed to me that there's a hypocrisy at the heart of it, and that was exactly the hypocrisy that I wanted to pull out when we went to Brighton Beach. Because when we went to Brighton Beach, and we were there with like a whole bunch of other leftists, and at some stage, I wanted to have the conversation about the value system, the system of morals, the system of ethics, basically the inherent principles in leftist thinking. Because here's the myth. They have an argument for why things should change, or what things should change to, and they have an argument for what makes things better or going to whatever else. But they have no way of, one, explaining that, and two, selling it. Why? Because one, they're ideologically dedicated, so they think of themselves as somehow purer than the masses anyway. So they need the masses to go through some kind of like ideological self-flagellation before they can join their ranks anyway.
You have to
already
agree with us on
BS.
everything.
Exactly, which is already some kind of Maoist bow your head.
Bad politics. You just have bad politics. You don't get it.
It's a madness.
Yeah.
That's one. And then two, even if you were to do that, as you experienced, there's no way for them to explain a whole bunch of their commitments. Moral, for example. So, like on the conversation that we had on Brighton Beach, the idea was this. My argument was the left has always historically failed to sell its position to the general population. And the reason it's failed to sell its position to the general population is because it undermines a very, very important thing. I'm going to say theism, like the belief in religion. I think that's the problem with the left. But
that they don't have religion.
That they don't have it. But I'll get to that in a second. But the problem is that the majority of people do. And if they don't have a particular God in mind, like they don't have a particular Allah or Jehovah or Yeshua or whoever, like if they don't have a particular God in mind, you have some sense of spirituality, you have some sense of transcendence, you have some sense of an eternal
understand
forever.
that there's something bigger than you.
Something, yeah.
I would disagree with you. I don't think it's necessarily the religion question. I think religion is just one way of understanding, like that there's something above you. But I think you can understand that you're not the end all be all, and everything does not rest with you, and that there's something above you that you don't control, and it's okay. You don't have to control everything, but they don't have this understanding.
No. And the problem with that is, and we'll get into the technicalities of why that doesn't make any sense in a second, but the problem with that is, in principle, is that when you're talking to a general population who does feel that way, for whatever reason and in whatever way, shape, or form, you can't sell your position unless you can address that directly.
Right.
And they don't want to address it directly by and large because they don't want to have to come out of their shell and say what they actually think, which is, I don't want to go to the population and say to them, you're all stupid because you believe in some kind of spirituality. Because that's what I actually think as a leftist. That's what I'm really saying. But I don't want to say that to you. So they try and avoid it and sell you a whole bunch of other politics without having to come out and say it. So when they get pushed, when you're pressed into a corner and the question is why, there's no answer. So for example, you're absolutely right. A more equitable distribution of products will produce a more just, by and large, a more just society. That's generally speaking right. So you take away the need.
That's not what my platform is. My platform is take all the wealth and make it equal. But yeah.
Okay, but your platform is not leftist. Your platform is benevolent dictatorship, or what we're hoping is benevolent dictatorship in any case. But definitely dictatorship. We don't know what that's going to turn into. But my point is that when you push them, like say for example, so an equitable distribution of wealth will produce a more equitable kind of or just society, largely speaking. Cool, I'm down with that. In principle, it kind of makes some sense. So if I take away the need for theft, then you can assume there'll be a reduced amount of thefts, right? So if everybody has enough to live on and everybody's kind of all right, and you take away the need for theft, then you assume that there wouldn't be that much theft. The same thing would be the case with like most crimes and whatever else. If you take away the need for those for those issues, or if you take away the vices in people's lives, you assume these things tend to go away. I'll give you one quick example of where this actually works out. One quick example. So there's these two experiments done on the question of addiction to drugs. So in the late 1970s, an experiment was done with a bunch of lab rats, mice in a cage, basically rats in a cage. And what they did is they gave these rats 2 drips, right? One drip was water, standard water. Then, rat goes up and drinks it and does his thing. The other drip was water, but laced with cocaine. Because these like some, gangster type rats. But in any case, it's laced with cocaine. And what they did is wanted to see how the rats would respond to the cocaine water. Cool. So they put the 2 waters in there, the rats go do their thing. And what they find is the rats would try the cocaine laced water, leave it alone, but then they come back to it. And then they come back to it. And then they come back to it. And then they stick to it. And then they only drink that to the point that it degrades their body, it damages their health, they start getting aggressive, they start tearing each other up, it starts getting violent. And from that simple one experiment, the conclusion was drawn that drugs, particularly cocaine, is dangerously addictive. Not just addictive, but dangerously addictive. And therefore banned and so on and so forth. And governments have taken that result and gone, okay, cool. So that's what that means. So we can't have any drugs and we have to regulate whatever, all that kind of cool. A similar experiment was done not very long afterwards, where the only variable they changed was the size of the cage where the rats were kept. So in the first case, it was a small cage, mad rats. In the second case, it was an enormous cage, very, very, very big cage with a wheel for them to run around in and mad hay all over the place and God knows whatever else. All these different things. Ran the exact same experiment. Cocaine laced water, regular type water. Except what they found this time around is that the rats will go and try the cocaine water like they did the first time, but never return to it. They just keep drinking regular water. The argument being, well, I don't need escapism if what I'm living in, I don't need to escape from. If everything's cool, what do I need the escapism of drugs for?
Yeah.
So there's a short-sightedness if you're a Marxist materialist, and if you're a leftist, the criticism is that there's a short-sightedness with aggressive policies against drugs, because it's assuming that you're taking the drug because there's either something wrong with you or something powerful about the drug. Whereas the case is your conditions might be such that you're more inclined to take a drug because you're trying to relieve your circumstances. You're trying to relieve yourself of your difficulties.
This is interesting. And when you first were describing this, I thought of suburban America.
Right.
I don't know if this is the case in the UK, but in America, there are like these really ugly cookie cutter suburbs.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
People live in, you know what I mean? Like all the houses look the same. There's nothing to do. It's like white picket fence. It's like so this suburban thing is like what people consider the American dream.
That's the ideal. Yeah.
I feel like it's a nightmare. Like I've never lived there.
My wife and kids. It's my wife and kids.
Hey, I thought this was a 3-day seminar you're going on.
It is.
Well, where's the third suitcase?
Shut up, Michael.
Yeah, my wife and kids. Like when you made it, you got to this cookie cutter
There's
suburb.
a home and a front lawn,
Right.
back lawn. You got your
Right.
3 kids. My wife and kids.
And the thing is, people really buy into this in this country. And it's not only white people; it's everybody buys into this because that's
100%.
how this society measures success, right?
Yeah.
I would hate to live in a place like that. I thank God that I never lived in a place like that because I would have killed myself. But when you were describing this, I first thought of that type of suburban setting because a lot of those kids are on really hard drugs.
Yes.
Because they're bored. There's nothing else to do. But the thing is, if you look at urban areas and you look at the inner city, you look at the hood basically, there's so many people on drugs because you're also trying to escape the poverty and the crap that you live in because there's also nothing to do.
Yes.
All of society gives you nothing to do.
That's my point. But
they're offering us nothing.
They're offering us, we have nothing. Nothing.
Vote for me in the dictator elections. I'm telling you.
Fam, have you turned this whole seminar into like an election campaign for your run as dictator of the world? No, listen, I agree with you, right? But so what I'm saying is there's an argument from the Marxist materialist point of view that makes a lot of sense, right? So if you render things more equitable across the board, then you should find a more equitable outcome, a more just outcome. People should generally behave more decently towards one another if the resources are all equally shared out and no one's starving and no one's struggling and God knows whatever else and all those things are the case. You'll tend to find that people are nice to one another or things tend to run more equitably, more justly and so on and so forth. And there's a logic to this, right? As example in that rats and the mice and the cocaine thing, there's a logic to it and I agree with that. The problem is while that's the case, they can't answer the question, why would I want that to be the case? Like, why? So, for example, when you say to somebody who's like an ardent racist, take a fascist. I always see these conversations. You see them online a lot of the time. You see like a leftist having an argument with like some hillbilly, somebody who got his roast. They arguing with each other, and the whole function of this is what late night shows are all about in the United States. The whole function of it is to demean, mock, and make fun of that guy, the hillbilly, and what have you. Oh, look how stupid he is, or look how little he knows, or look how immorally backwards he is, or gonna do a roast, or ha 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 ha, he said something terrible about women. Ha 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 ha. Right? That's kind of the function of it. That's the point of these late night shows. We kind of have these conversations with these whatevers, and then mock them for how little they know about leftist morals. Cool. You with me? You still with me? You follow me? All right. What I'm saying is, if you were to have that conversation with that same person, and then say that person was willing to engage, right? And you say to them, hey, listen, I feel like racism is a bad idea. You say, why? Well, because society works better when it's more equitable and just. Why? Why would I want it to be more equitable and just? Well, because it's nicer for everybody else. Why? Like, why would I want it to be nicer for everybody else? What if I'm good with it being great for me? Like, what if I'm cool with it? And I've asked my like people this in the past, and I feel like you should ask everybody. You know, everybody watching this, ask your friends this, and ask everybody you know this question, because I feel like it tells you something about the people you hang around with. And the question is real straightforward. If you had let's just think about this now together. How many people you think in the United States, which way would they answer this question? If the choice was given to you right now, that you could never personally be wealthy, you would never achieve personal wealth, right? But that the payoff for you failing to ever achieve personal wealth is that there will be no more poverty on planet Earth, full stop. All poverty is eliminated. That's it. It will never happen again. You will never be wealthy personally. Like, you'll never achieve incredible wealth and have massive homes and cars and but there will be no more poverty on planet Earth. Or I can guarantee you personal wealth, but there will always be poverty on planet Earth. Which would you take?
Most people would take option 2.
Most.
In America, I think it will vary depending on country to country.
I think it will vary wildly depending on country, yeah.
But most people in the West, I would say, but particularly America, would choose option 2. But that's because America is founded on this idea of the individual, rugged individualism. Selfishness is a good thing in this society.
Absolutely. Greed is good. It's the whole, what's that movie?
Oh, I know.
Wall Street thing.
Wolf of Wall Street.
No, not Wolf of Wall Street. Not Wolf of Wall Street. Not Wolf of... It's the Michael Douglas movie.
Yeah, that's not Wolf of Wall Street. It is.
Oh, that Wolf of Wall Street is the Leonardo DiCaprio movie now. Yo,
Wait,
Missy's tearing her hair out right now.
No, he remade it.
Not fam, it's a different movie.
Is it? But I know, I was thinking the Michael Douglas movie too.
Yeah, the Michael Douglas movie got remade. There are 2 versions of it. There's the old original, and then there was a second one. And then there's Wolf of Wall Street, which is a separate thing.
Oh, okay.
Which is the Leonardo da Vinci movie.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Missy's tearing her hair out right now.
Sorry, Missy.
Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
No, but my point is you're absolutely right. But what I think is what is weird here is the overlap, like we were saying beforehand, is the overlap between the left and the right here, where if you're a Marxist materialist, the sleight of hand, the hypocrisy is that you never confess that at the end of the day, you share that concern for individual. Sorry, you share that individual concern.
What do you mean? What individual concern?
If you answer that question that I just asked you a second ago by saying, no, I would prefer my personal wealth over the impossibility of poverty across the globe, right? Because I care more about myself than everybody else. If you're a Marxist materialist, your position boils down to the same thing, although you'll pretend it's otherwise. You'll pretend it's social. You'll pretend your concerns are social. But insofar as you're a materialist, insofar as you are a materialist, and that's how you navigate and describe your whole framework for reality, your primary and sole concern is yourself. Marx himself says it. which is to say, what we want is the equitable distribution of the resources amongst all the population, so that each individual human being can shake off the yoke of oppression and so on and so forth, and start to find their true creative abilities, right? You're supposed to express your true creative, what have you, capacities. And the whole point of structuring society that way is to free each individual so you can all individually become amazing. That's the idea. You're trying to free the individual spirit of each one of each member of society by rendering everything equal. So you're trying to get to the same goal that capitalism wants to get to. Capitalism wants each individual to, or says that it wants each individual to be wealthy and whatever else and too, because it's all about the individual material concern. I was reading this thing earlier on today, and I was like, yo, I know this is going to sound like sacrilege. This is sacrilege, forgive me. But I was reading this thing where they were talking about the creative abilities of a particular individual. It was a Marx thing. I can't remember where I read it. Some of the creative abilities of the particular individual and how they might realize that and, become this independent blah, 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 yeah. And as I'm reading it, I'm sitting there going, if Ayn Rand was reading this, she'd be nodding her head. You could be Ayn Rand and read that and nod your head. Because it's all about the individual. And it's all about the material. Because if you're a Marxist, and if you're a leftist at university, you're a materialist. And if you're a materialist, you believe that the only thing that freaking matters is what's materially real. What materially exists. Ironically enough, I found out earlier on today too that the Dalai Lama considers himself a leftist.
I would think so.
I know. I just didn't know that he meant that explicitly. He said it explicitly. Hold on. Let me find you his exact words. Hold up. I don't want to get the Dalai Lama wrong here. His exact words were, he says half Marxist, half Buddhist.
Yeah. Oh, he said Marxist. Oh, that's
he's half Marxist, half Buddhist.
That's interesting.
I think that's incredible.
Do you think that's the influence of China?
No,
I
don't think he would say that at all. If he has no problem about
if he said half leftist, half Buddhist, I could get it. I don't understand the Marxist part. You don't have to be a Marxist to be a leftist. Like, you don't have to be. This is the thing. This is my criticism of the left. One of them.
Tell me.
I feel like they believe and they make you feel like unless you follow this ideology of Marxism, you are not a leftist. I had leftist politics before I knew Marx was even a thing, because leftist politics is not about what ideology you follow, in my opinion. It's about what kind of world you want to live in, what you want to do in the world, what you want, like your actions. Do you help people at every opportunity? Do you try to ease people's suffering at every opportunity? Well, then you're probably a leftist, because you understand people shouldn't suffer. No one should be suffering. You want to get rid of suffering.
But this is my point. The thing that distinguishes, the thing that leftists think distinguish them from everybody else is the fact that they would agree with that, except so would religious people.
Yeah.
And what the leftists say is that no, what separates us from religious people is that religious people think that all of this is true because God said so. We think all of this is true because I said so.
Right. Because they have massive egos that they cannot get over.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. This brings me to a good point. So I feel like growing up Muslim, I was always told like death is not a bad thing. And death was something that we talked about a lot, and you don't fear it. You accept it, and you actually, death is like the best thing that you can ask for, because you leave the world, which we believe is not real, and you go back to Allah, to God. And that's the best thing that you could ever want. So I really grew up believing this. And when I was younger, I did not have a fear of death. It wasn't, and for most of my life, I didn't have this until I fell in with these leftists, and I became ideologically committed to this like Marxist thing. And I was always like religious or spiritual or whatever before this. And then once I got into this group, eventually I started saying I didn't believe in God, even though it was never true. In the back of my mind, it's funny because I would say it because I thought that's what I had to say to be a good leftist or Marxist or whatever, to fit in with these people. Excuse me, sorry. But when I would say it, in the back of my mind, I would always say astaghfirullah, because I know I was committing the worst thing you could commit.
Hey, I think that's our thing.
What?
That's our thing. Hey, for Missy's sake, every time we swear in a seminar, astaghfirullah, that's our thing.
That's what we're gonna say instead of the swear? Or we
no, I'm
swear
not.
and then we say
And there you go. And then Missy has that shit, that edit point. Astaghfirullah. Edit point.
Okay, got
There
it.
you go. That's it. I'm done.
Um,
Missy, there you go now.
but when I started like breaking and like forgetting about religion, and when I really took on this idea that it was me, the bigger my ego got, the more and I put faith in myself, which is like the worst place to put it, in a sense. Like when I started to really believe in my own abilities or whatever I thought they were, that's when my fear of death, like I used to wake up in the middle of the night. I told you this. I had these panic attacks. I had never in my life had panic attacks before. I started having panic attacks where I would wake up in the middle of the night and I couldn't breathe and I would freak out. I was having a panic attack at the thought that I was gonna die one day. But previous to this, I never, ever, ever, I have been in situations where I've almost died and I'm just like, okay, this is coming.
Yeah, but you've also been on airplanes perfectly fine and like squeezing the life out of my left hand.
No, but this is the thing I always think about. When I was younger and I went on planes, I had no fear. When I was 27 and I got on a flight to go visit my grandmother, I wasn't afraid to be on that flight. And it's not like the idea that the plane could crash and I could die didn't cross my mind. It did, but I was like, okay, if it happens, it happens. It wasn't until I fell in with these leftists and I started, thinking like them, and that I got this fear of death.
And to be clear, to be absolutely clear, this is not us ragging on the principles of what it means to be like on ending suffering, on being just, on whatever, all of those things that the left thinks that they can co-opt. I'm wholly behind all of that stuff. Like I said, I'm so far left that came off the map. That's not the point.
Well, that's the thing. My morals, my ideas, my values, my politics are still the same. I still believe these things. It's just without the ideological
commitment.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that part and parcel of that ideological commitment finds its error. And we're not going to talk about all of this today. We might have to pick this up in the next seminar. But all of that finds its root in Karl Marx's commitment to the idea that religion exclusively, and I haven't quite figured out exactly why he did this, but religion exclusively is explained by a manipulation committed on the part of the powerful classes to exploit and oppress the lower classes, right? So what he calls it this stupefaction of the masses. But hold on.
The thing is, I understand why he thinks that, because if you look at things like institutional religion, like look at the church. That's what the church does. This is what, every institution of religion does this. But the thing is, you can criticize institutional religion without criticizing spirituality.
Well, look, let me say this, right? So I found this thing. It's really interesting. Not that I'm that kind of a leftist, but I found this quote from Lenin, and I thought you might find this interesting. You particularly because of your experience with your leftist, right? But listen to this from Lenin. From Lenin. But under no circumstances, he says, ought we to fall into the error of posing the religious question in an abstract, idealistic fashion as an intellectual question, unconnected with the class struggle, as is not infrequently done by the radical Democrats from among the bourgeoisie. It would be stupid to think that in a society based on endless oppression and coarsening of the worker masses, religious prejudices could be dispelled by purely propaganda methods. It would be bourgeois narrow-mindedness to forget that the yoke of religion that weighs upon mankind is merely a product and reflection of the economic yoke within society. No number of pamphlets and no amount of preaching can enlighten the proletariat if that is not enlightened by its own struggle against the dark forces of capitalism. Unity in this really revolutionary struggle of the oppressed class for the creation of a paradise on earth is more important to us than the unity of proletarian opinion on paradise in heaven. What he's basically saying is that on the one hand, that last sentence is that he's saying, look, I'm willing to sacrifice a temporary debate about whether or not hell or heaven exists or which kind of religious kind of sect you commit yourself to and what have you, insofar as we're all committed to the same struggle against capitalism. Whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whatever, I don't really care. So long as we're all committed to the same struggle against capitalism, that's what matters more than anything else right now. That's one. But two, the first thing he said, and to me the more important thing he's saying, is that you have got to remember at all times that what and again I disagree with him, but that the religious commitment is born of the oppression, exploitation, and suffering of the peoples by and large, right? Of peoples en masse. And the attempt to try to get them to rid themselves of that commitment by sheerly arguing them out of it, or debating them out of it, or pamphleting them out of it, or propaganding them out of it won't work. Not only will it not work, but it's self-destructive. Like it ends up countering everything you're trying to do. It doesn't end up. It ends up working against what you're trying to achieve. You can't argue people out of a religious commitment. And this is Lenin saying this. And again, I disagree. Like I don't think it's true that people only adopt religion because of a certain level of oppression and suffering or whatever else, as Marx did. Well, he called it the religion is the sigh of oppressed people. What's the exact words he used? Hold on, I got it here. Hold on.
Isn't it something the opium?
No, it's the opium of the masses, of the people. The soul. Religion is the soul of the soulless conditions. The soul of the soulless conditions. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature. The sigh of the oppressed creature. This is what he calls religion. And this is my point. Like he's not wrong, and you're not wrong in that it is manipulated. It can be and has been manipulated that way. It can be and has been turned into an ideological commitment all unto itself that is used to exploit people and so on and so forth. That's true. And we haven't had time, and we won't have time to talk about it today. But liberation theology suggests an alternative. But nevertheless, the point is that kind of failure to understand the meaning of religion and why it occurs in the mind of the average human being, I think is one of the fundamental problems in this leftist thinking. And they can't, I don't think they figured it out. And so long as they haven't figured that out, one, they remain committed to similar principles as those that you find on the side of capitalism, though they don't really see it. And two, they're performing a kind of hypocritical sleight of hand that most people are aware of, but can't verbalize. Like they can't eloquently phrase, but they're aware there's something dodgy going on. Like I know when I'm being ripped off, bro. And you're trying to rip me off. And I can see it. So it just doesn't work. And the same thing is true with academia. I think the same kind of like that rip off, that hypocrisy, what have you, by and large, the same thing is there in academia. And here we go to like, shed some light in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? Bring a little light to the Look, I want to wrap this up, but go ahead.
I want to add one more thing. When you asked me what was the thing that made me break, really?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of things. And I want to say, because this kind of reminded me of it a little bit, when you were talking about the sleight of hand thing.
Yeah.
The disingenuousness that I saw on the left. And what I mean is, when we would meet people, they would hang out with people and try to build relationships with them purely on the basis of politicizing them.
Yes.
To me, that was always ugly.
Yeah, of course.
I remember it, like thinking it, and I would just be like, they just want to hang out with these people to politicize them,
groom
get them to think like them. It's like grooming, yeah. And
indoctrination and grooming, fam.
And I was like, but you don't actually want to be friends with anybody. You don't want to actually build a relationship with these people. It's just a means to an end for you.
Because a friendship has no material function.
Oh, and they said this so many times. They will be like, we're not in these groups to make friends. Well, you don't know how to build relationships. That's why you don't know how to make friends. Like, you're not trying to.
Not even trying to. All right, so
and they will tell themselves that it's because their task is so much more important than a friendship. But anyway.
I'm going to throw in a little bit of Royce. So Royce the 5'9", Overcomer. Because we overcoming over here. Yeah, that's what it is, man. I don't know if you've checked this album out, but if you haven't, oh my God. The Allegory by Royce the 5'9" is unbelievable, fam. It's absolutely unbelievable. But in any case, so look, this has been a good conversation. I just kind of wanted to kind of take a little bit of time for us to really look back at our kind of time at university, our time at school, whatever else, our time studying, and then our time with politics, because like it's an important thing. And all too many people are going to university and just taking the word of their teachers, or taking the word of their leftist friends, or taking the word of whoever authority just as word, as
or
gospel.
Whoever you think is smarter than you.
Or whoever you think is smarter than you.
And the thing is, there are people who will know more than you, but that doesn't mean that like you should follow them blindly and that everything they say is correct, and that you should not trust yourself and your ability to decipher things in the face of that.
Look, somebody asked me the question the other day, right? I'm gonna say this real quick. Somebody asked me the question the other day, and they said to me, what happens, how do you stop online students from cheating by using Google? And what I said was, you don't. But if your school can be passed, if I can achieve graduation from your school by Googling, that's to say, if Google is smart enough to pass your school, then maybe the problem is your school, not Google. It's not the cheating, fam. It's that your score is so stupid. I could pass it with Google search results. That the sophistication of students that you're pumping out are the equivalent of an algorithm found on a Google search result.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And the same thing is the case for everybody who's currently in school, everybody who's currently in education, everybody who's currently in academia. Remember at all times, that if their authority is real, if they really are smarter than you, if they really know better than you, then they should be able to defend that when you test them. Don't ever think you can't test them, and don't ever think you can't question them, because they're really smarter than you. You could test them. And I say this to everybody. Yo, I know how smart I am. I ask my students to test me all day. Yo, test me. What's up? I'll prove you I'm right, but test me. I'm not like your regular teachers, and that's my point. I don't buy into that whole authority BS, and the same thing is true with the left. The same thing is true with academia. But in any case, look, I feel like I've run my mouth enough for another seminar. Are we done? You got anything you want to wrap? You stick on to the end?
No, I want to go.
Yeah, me too. I need to pee. So look, it's been Dr. E's Open Seminars. This was Open Seminar number 48. Thank y'all for coming along. We'll be back same time, same place next week, Monday, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST. It will be those times next week, like, time zone differences or whatever else, but we'll figure all that out. In the meantime, thank y'all for coming along. We appreciate you coming every single week. Build on together, staying with us for the whole journey as we improve and level up our way through this. In the meantime, y'all stay safe, stay masked up, stay vaccinated up. Go get the vaccines for everybody around you as and when you can do them. Do the right thing. And in case there were any questions, Black lives been matter, Black lives still matter, Black lives will matter. That's just what it is in here, over here. Anybody has any issues with that, I'm gonna speak to you no time, never. Peace, one, love to everybody, health and blessings, love and light.
Bye, guys.
One.